This session is sponsored by Zydus Oncology, and our speaker is Dr. Gaurang Modi, medical oncologist from Ahmedabad. So I welcome sir to the stage.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Majan, respected teachers, seniors, and colleagues. So, this is a very odd topic, but very most common topic to our day-to-day OPD and patients. So, for the student, what is acute chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, and then what is delayed chemotherapy-induced nausea vomiting? These are the questions. So, usually for students, acute chemotherapy-induced nausea vomitings are that we see within 24-hour chemotherapy administration, and delayed chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting are usually after 24 hours. And if it occurs after 4 to 5 days, then it is a breakthrough nausea vomiting. And anticipatory chemotherapy-induced nausea vomiting are usually the night before the chemotherapy administration or on the same day. And usually the incidence of the chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting are very common, and usually we are underrated, especially the nausea symptoms are very common. So if we see the pathogenesis of the chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting, so basically there are two pathways. There are peripheral pathway, that is mainly a serotonin based, and second is a central pathway, that is substance P induced, and there is a mainly NK receptor are mainly take part. So to cut the story short, so for acute chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting, there is an involvement of the peripheral pathway, that is serotonin, and for delayed chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting, we have to hit hard on NK receptor. And there is recent ESCO update. So what are the predictive factors that guide us that patients will develop more nausea and vomiting? Of course, there is a definitely it depend upon the chemotherapy agent, but there are also some compounding factors are there. Especially educational status of the patients are very important. Also, which drugs he or she is taking with the chemotherapy is also important. Also, there is a pre-existing medical illness like motion sickness. Also, there is the anxiety of the patient's counterpart is very important. And if you categorize the chemotherapy according to its emetogenic potential, there are usually three parts. If the chemotherapy are highly emetogenic, that is more than 90% chances of nausea or vomiting, and if it is between 30 to 90%, that is a moderate emetogenic potential, and if it is less than 30, then it is a low risk category. And what guideline says regarding acute chemotherapy induced nausea vomiting? If there is a high emetogenic potential of the chemotherapy are there, we have to bombard with all the corners we have, like 5-HT receptor antagonist that we have, like ondansetron, dolosetron, palonosetron, or genisetron, plus dexamethasone we can use, plus NK receptor antagonist like aprepitant, fosaprepitant, netopitant, plus olanzapine. If moderate emetogenic potential of the chemotherapy are there, we can use 5-HT receptor antagonist plus dexamethasone plus NK receptor antagonist. And for low emetogenic potential, we can simply use either ondansetron as an oral drug, or dexamethasone low dose, or even we can use dopamine antagonist, that is simply Perinom, Domstal, or phenothiazidine based drug. For delayed chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting, if there is high emetogenic potential are there, so we have to incorporate NK receptor antagonist therapy into this regimen. Plus or minus you can use Dexona plus olanzapine. And with moderate and low potential risk, you can avoid NK receptor antagonist. So for acute and delayed both chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting, you can avoid NK receptor antagonist for moderate or low risk category. With this background, I'm coming to the basic topic, that is NEPA, that is netopatent and palonosetron. So it act on both the pathway, that is central pathway as well as the peripheral pathway. The palonosetron actually act on the serotonin receptor and netopatent act on the NK receptor. So basically it helps in synergizing the crosstalk between the two pathway, and that leads to the prophylaxis against both acute and chronic chemo-induced nausea and vomiting. So if you compare the netopatent with the aprepitant, the netopatent has significant better half-life of 96 hours compared to aprepitant, that is 9 to 13 hours. If you compare the palonosetron with its counterpart, the same group, that is ondansetron or granisetron, it has significant better half-life of more than 40 hours with better binding affinity, better positive cooperativity. Also, it has better inhibition of the receptor function. Also, palonosetron has receptor internalization, and specially it helps to inhibit cross talk pathway, that is serotonin and NK receptor. So if we see the data of NEPA with highly emetogenic chemotherapy risk factor, NEPA has proved that it has better efficacy compared to 3-drug aprepitant that we commonly use in our OPD, and that is shown in the pooled analysis of the multiple phase 2 and phase 3 data. Second point that is very important is it helps to prevent the significant nausea when we use the high dose cisplatin therapy. And third and important point, it helps to lower the incidence of the breakthrough bleeding that usually we see because of the longer half-life of the netopatent. So if we see the data, that is a pooled analysis published in ASCO 2021, it shows that a single day NEPA is more effective than 3-day aprepitant that we used. Also, it helps in the prevention of the breakthrough nausea and vomiting. This is the Indian data published in the ASCO 2022, and it shows that after using NEPA, complete response rate is there in all phases of the vomiting, like acute phase, delayed phase or overall phase. So again, the conclusion is made that NEPA was effective and well tolerated, and it has a control rate of more than 90% in all phases of the chemotherapy induced nausea vomiting. So it's a retrospective US population based data. It also shows that if you use the NEPA, there are fewer occurrence of the nausea and vomiting. Also, there is less chances of the fluid electrolyte imbalance. So after showing the data of NEPA in highly emetogenic risk category, NEPA has similar data in moderately emetogenic risk category. So we have the PECIFRA trial. It compare NEPA with the oral aprepitant, and it's a pragmatic multi-center randomized single cycle open label prospective study, and it showed there is a NEPA is non-inferior compared to aprepitant that we used. So after there is a role in high and moderate emetogenic potential, our concern is using of the steroid. So after combined with the NEPA, we can even actually avoid the steroid. So we have the two data. There is one data is ASCO 2021. There is a non-inferiority study with high dose cisplatin. We can avoid a long-term steroid maintenance after using NEPA. And also we have the data that in bone marrow transplant patient, like lymphoma patient with the beam and FEAM regimen, if we use multiple time of the NEPA, that is day 1, day 3 and day 5, we can decrease the role of the steroid because already these patients are immunosuppressed. So, in bone marrow transplant setting with NEPA and sparing the steroid, the most effective anti-emetic prophylaxis with a simplification of the therapy are there, and which also spare the patient to a dose of the steroid. And it's a simple one tablet we can use. Thank you. Yes.
When you combine with the olanzapine, is there any data for QT prolongation? The students are here, my question.
Yes, yes, yes. Sir, data is there definitely, and we used olanzapine with our high risk emetogenic potential, but we have to use it. We and truly speaking that we are not doing any pre ACG before olanzapine, and I have read couple of articles that even after giving ondansetron, there is sudden death of the patient that because literature is shown that there is a QT interval with the ondansetron also, but we can't do that.
But now in a lot of trials, they have not shown any such concern.
Yes, 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 definitely, sir, definitely.
But there are interactions, but they are easily managed and day and night we have involved more drugs.
Hmm.
But hardly we see any such issue.
Sir, it is like that 5FU induced vasospasm is very rare event, and it happened. We can't do anything. Thank you.